Who created God? Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, in order to create God, one would have to be spectacularly strong, I would think, and then you'd have this problem. Who created whoever created God? This particular question is typically used not as a question, but as an accusation, because often we argue for God's existence on the basis of that which is created. There is a universe. Where did it come from? Just yesterday on the Ask RC podcast, I asked the question, where does morality come from? Essentially giving a moral argument for God's existence. If there is morality, there must be a moral law giver. And in order for there to be a moral law giver, there has to be a God. So now the question, if we keep pushing back and we come to this spot, and you can do it with the universe as well. The universe is a creation which demands a creator. Well, who created the creator? And some, I hope very few, but some Christians have made the mistake of arguing that God created himself, which is really also nonsense. The truth of the matter is that God's not created. That what we're affirming when we're giving an argument from the existence of something is simply this. It's all built on the premise that every effect must have a sufficient cause. Every effect must have a sufficient cause is a foundational logical principle that is necessary in order to understand the world at all. And so we say, well, how's come? Or how did this come to be? Or why did this happen? We're looking for the sufficient cause that brought this to pass. And when we chase down a chain of sufficient causes all the way back to the beginning, we find ourselves standing right there in Genesis 1:1a. In the beginning, God. Because everything after that is an effect of which God is the ultimate cause. And so our ideological opponents say, okay, so what's God's cause? Well, there is no cause for God because God is not an effect. When we say every effect must have a sufficient cause, we're not saying everything must have a sufficient cause. An effect does cover the gamut of all things except for God. Because the defining quality of effect is change. And God doesn't change. God is pure being. He has no becoming in him. We are human becomings. We're part being and part becoming. There's that of us that continues, and there's that of us that changes and is shaped. With God, there's nothing changing. He is no effect. He has in his nature, no effectness, so to speak. So he can't provide a background for himself because he is the ultimate background. This is not just Christians, by the way. This is precisely what Muslims argue in the Kalam argument. It's also precisely, this is in fact where Muslims got it, precisely what Aristotle argued when he described God as the unmoved mover or the uncaused cause. In order for there to be something, something must necessarily be. Something must have the power of being in itself. It's necessary. Either something has the power of being in itself or nothing is. Well, what do we call that being that has the power of being within itself? We call it God. So, the answer to the question, who created God or what created God, is nothing created God and no one created God because God is not created. He is self-existent, independent, not contingent or derived. He is being itself.